Thank you. Madam Chair, you do have quorum. We have regrets from Andrew and Claudia, but you do have quorum, so I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see everybody. And for those that I can't see, hello. We will now call the meeting to order. And does anyone have any declaration of interest to declare? No? Okay. So our item on the agenda is site plan reviews for Southgate office space. So I will hand it over to whoever's presenting from Southgate.
I believe that was going to be Holly and
Okay.
Dave.
Oh, there she is. Okay. Oh, great.
Good afternoon, sorry. So Dave Milner was supposed to be in attendance. He is unavailable, so our building official, Bev Fisher, is here. So I will just turn it over to him, and I have the images up to share my screen.
Thanks, Holly.
Okay. Good evening, or good afternoon, I guess it is. It's not quite evening. Day goes by quickly here. So Southgate, due to COVID, well, COVID is just part of it, like everything else. Southgate has expanded. I'll skip the COVID stuff and just say Southgate has expanded and hired on more staff. So during that, because of that, we have renovated the existing, what was the existing Hopeville Council chambers to allow for building department staff to use this, plus a meeting room, which you can see on the left-hand side door. This is a picture of a counter we have installed to, I guess, separate ourselves from the public so that they do not just wander into the office. I'm not sure what else you would like me to discuss. Holly will go through the pictures there. The building department would be accessible by people who come into the office if they asked to see us. Normally they would be stopped at the front desk and most of the dealings would be done at the front desk, but this probably could be where they pick up their permits. We're not 100% sure of all the logistics yet. Kind of see how the public handles it as well, because it is an off direction of travel from the main office. If there's any questions, I will be happy to answer them if I can.
So basically, this is in the building department, or
Yes.
it's Catherine. Sorry, David.
The picture you're looking at right at this moment shows from, I guess, the public accessible side into the office itself.
Okay. And hence the reason why you have a lowered counter then.
I never thought of that being a lowered counter, but we could use that as a lowered counter, yes.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, my understanding is that this is being presented around accessibility, with regards to accessibility, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, and I looked at the pictures and I have a pretty clear understanding of what you're doing. And I actually think at some point I might have been to that building.
Yeah, at some point there was a member, about 5 members came through, maybe 3.
Yeah, I was part of that, I think, because it was, when I saw the pictures, it was quite familiar to me. Yeah, and I see what you're doing, like the larger counter in the renovations that you've done. is sort of to block, as you said, block the public from being able to come right straight through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't, unfortunately, it isn't completed. I'm still waiting on,
Okay.
I call it plexiglass, some sort of Lexolite or something like that. Your normal
Okay,
COVID
okay.
screening, but also a barrier in between the public. But it would start up approximately 6 to 8 inches from the top of the counter and go up, not all the way to the ceiling, but it would be positioned up there.
Okay.
So people can't come across the counter at us as well. The building department does get some aggravated clients. So we do want to be able to serve them, but we also want to protect our staff.
So basically, the plexiglass will be to accommodate keeping staff safe, like a health and safety issue because of COVID.
Yeah.
And but where, I guess what I'm confused with is, where does that fit into accessibility? It fits in for COVID, but where does it fit in for accessibility? Is that the lower, like I'm just,
I believe
from the
it was
photos,
brought-
I'm thinking the lower counter is your accessible counter.
I believe it was brought up because it wasn't accessible. And to be honest with you, I never thought about using this lower area for an accessibility, but we could quite easily not put the plastic barrier there, or start it up 6 to 8 inches as well, and then make that accessible for everyone in that situation. Mhm.
Dwight, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been at your building 2 or 3 times.
Mhm.
And I'm noticing by the picture that the entrance door coming in doesn't appear to me that it has a handicap operator on it, unless I can't see it.
This is actually an exit. It does have a ramp on the outside, but it's not our main entrance. Our main entrance is outside of this office altogether. You would come in through the front entrance and then have to come down a hall to this area.
Okay, good. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
And that exit or entrance does have the power operator and the ramp out through the front as well.
So this is mainly just down in your building department area is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
and that's an existing exit door that's just been there forever, and we're not blocking it. We're going to use it for an emergency in case the front entrance is blocked. And it does work very well because it has a ramp on it as well, that anybody in the building could also get out if the other way is blocked.
Okay, thank you.
So the only question I would have then is, this is being presented to the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for accessibility. So I'm just not sure what you're hoping from this committee. Like, Kathy, can you add to this? Thank you.
Sure. I'm just thinking, so whenever a municipal public building has a renovation, one of the requirements is to bring it to Accessibility Advisory Committee for review and comment. But in this particular instance, this area is not predominantly a public area.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's a courtesy that it's coming to this committee, and
Okay.
good luck to you guys. It looks like you're doing the best you can with the limited space you have, and that you do have other opportunity in the main area to meet with anybody who comes in with accessibility requirements.
Yes, our main
Okay.
area is set up for accessibility for sure. It has the proper counter height and everything else. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, and I think for the sake of, if you did by any chance have somebody that came through that, was using, an assisted device, that they would be able to make their way down into this area. And you could potentially, without getting into the, requirements under the AODA and the built environment standard, but you could potentially use that lower counter as an accessible area, as you said. Like, you hadn't thought about it, but Dave,
When-
you
when
could
I-
potentially say that you've
when I
got a
say
lower
lower-
counter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I see it here on the picture, it definitely could be and would not take much of an effort to use it for that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And my recommendation would be that, you know, just from a personal point of view, I guess, from a health and safety standard point of view, would be if you're putting plexi on the higher counter, you might want to also put some plexi on the lower one.
That's
Then,
right.
yeah,
That's why
then
I
it would,
said
it would appear to be a customer service area as well.
why I said it didn't appear to be to
Yeah.
me to do that, because I had actually ordered plexi to go right from the top to the bottom for that side. But I will
Oh.
take and have that gentleman cut that plexi 6 to 8 inches shorter and
Yeah.
mount it a little higher, and it will look
Yeah.
and act like an accessibility counter.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and as Kathy pointed out, I think it's, you know, that's what happens in a lot of the municipal offices, is that some departments are just not always, not everybody comes to those departments for customer service. And, you know, you can still do business, as Kathy pointed out, you can still do the business at the front counter.
Yeah.
So that's another option, right? Yeah.
The majority of the business will be done at the front counter. This is more just, I guess, one-on-one consultation if they ask for it.
Yeah.
But we do also have a meeting room there that we could set aside the meeting room to meet in as well. If it's
Okay.
available. That's the unfortunate part, is sometimes it's not available.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Do any of the other members of the committee have any questions? So I guess really, I mean, you're just looking more for, as Kathy said, from this committee to, you know, you presented it to the committee, we'd come back, you know, obviously we're in agreement to, you know, possibly using the lower counter, but I do believe that we do have a resolution prepared. And I just would need a, I guess, Tara, do you have the resolution that you can?
Sure. The resolution or the motion is just that the design of the Southgate Municipal Office Building Department be supported as designed.
Okay. So can I have a mover?
I can do that. It's Brooke.
Oh, thanks, Brooke. And can I have a seconder?
I will
Oh,
second
there's
it.
Christina waving her hand. Thank you, Christina. Okay. All in favor? Okay,
I'm good.
good. Andy, you're okay?
Yes, I am.
Thanks, Andy. And
Before those presenters leave, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the really good description. I felt like I've never been to that area, and so, but I felt like I could get an idea of what it was all going to look like.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
Brooke.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so motion, or is it a resolution or a motion, Tara? It's a motion?
Once it's passed, it's a resolution.
Okay, so it is carried then?
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for presenting. We really appreciate it and appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time. And we'll keep you informed, I guess.
Okay.
Hopefully on a
Yes.
new build, hopefully on a new build in the next couple of years. But
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is Town of Hanover and playground retrofits.
Hi, it's Melissa here from Town of Hanover. Sherry, I just wanted to double check. Are you able to share your screen, or will we require some assistance with that?
Probably what I would suggest is if you could share that report from your end, someone, that would be helpful.
Tara or Kathy, are you able to? I'm on the report on my side is open through a separate connection.
Yep, I can share it. Just one moment.
Thank you.
I need to. Sorry, everybody. I just have to unplug because then I have 3 screens going and I.
Do you want me to give it a go, Tara?
Let's just see what comes up here. Can everyone see that?
That's working. Thank you.
Okay.
Melissa, do you want me to
Al
highlight or
fresco.
do you want to start?
If you'd like to walk us through, Sherry, that would be great. Yeah, I know
Sure.
you're an expert.
Careful how you use that word.
Oh, sorry, it's Kath. I'm just going to interrupt for a second. What we're seeing, Tara, is your whole alfresco screen, not just the report.
Oh, goodness. Sorry about that.
Maybe while Tara is working, I can certainly provide you with a bit of verbal background to the project. It is included in the report as well, but at least I can provide you with verbal background. So first of all, my name is Sherry Walden, and I'm the Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture here with the Town of Hanover. And thank you to Melissa and the committee members for allowing us this opportunity to bring this very exciting project forward. Our Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee has done a fair bit of work on our outdoor spaces and has a number of parks objectives that they are working on, one being our neighborhood playgrounds. And so they've established a priority order of those neighborhood playgrounds based on a third-party inspection report that we had completed in 2021 of those park spaces that are in need of some investment and some retrofit. And honestly, I've been here for 30 years. And some of these playgrounds are equipment that were before my time. So it's very long overdue. And we are quite excited about this opportunity. So the 2 playgrounds before you today are neighborhood playgrounds. So they exist in long-standing neighborhoods. And we applied to Trillium, and we were so excited to be approved for Trillium funding. And it was I founded the news confidentially, and just before Christmas, it was like a big Christmas gift. I was cheering when I found out. So we're quite excited about what this opportunity means. So basically, the timing for this is our RFP has been issued, and the deadline is this Thursday. And then our advisory committee will be reviewing those submitted proposals and design submissions and selecting a contractor or manufacturing company based on the designs and the various criteria that we have for assessing those proposals. So maybe if we can just, Tara, if you're moving the screen, correct? If we can just maybe, yes, that would be good. If we can get to that page 2. So just to give you a bit of an idea of the 2 spaces. So the first one that you see here on the screen now is our Optimist Park Playground. And this is a mature neighborhood, and it has a connecting trail link to a new residential area. It's about a 404 square meter piece of space or property. And you can see this is actually from the GIS maps that we have via Grey County. This is actually a portion of this property that we own as the Town of Hanover. And you can see the 4 pieces of equipment that exist there. There will be, most of that will be, equipment will be removed in the next 4 weeks, hopefully, just before, as soon as we can get in there, we'll be removing a good majority of this equipment. It's past its life and it's past its ability to be a safe playing area. So we will be without playground equipment until such time that we will retrofit it with the new equipment as such. So currently this existing space has a swing set unit, which is the bottom right-hand corner. It has a subsequent to the left of that. So the bottom left corner of that yellow box is what I would call a ground surface play unit. It's a dinosaur unit. And then it's an older model slide where it had like the climbing bars on the one side, you could get onto a platform and go to a steel slide. And then the top piece there that you see, the top square, is another older kind of play unit with a climbing piece and slide. And then to the right of that is really that is just a blank piece that does have engineered wood fiber. It was a former slide that was there. It's no longer there. So basically all but the swing sets and the dinosaur climbing unit will be removed here very soon. And then once we've selected a provider, all those pieces of equipment will be removed and we'll be retrofitting with new equipment accordingly based on the selected design. So that space, that's the Optimist playground space. If we can just move Tara to page 3, I believe. Yeah. So the next space is our Kinsmen Ballpark playground, and you'll just have to scroll down a little bit more to kind of get an idea of this site. So this is just a portion of our site. You can see obviously the 3 ball diamonds. 2 of them are very visible. We have our minor diamond, which is really that top left corner of that kind of overview, that picture. And then we have our middle diamond, and then there is another diamond that backs onto that middle diamond. So there's 2 lit ball diamonds here, an unlit ball diamond, a parking area that you can see to the right. And then there is, you can just see the corner of it on the far right of that screen. There is a building that is part of this property that has a covered picnic area and a washroom space. The playground, as you can see, is the yellow corner of this property. And again, a good number of pieces of equipment will be removed from this playground in the next 4 weeks with the intent that we will be retrofitting. So this playground backs onto what I would say a fairly mature neighborhood to the west, and then on the south and to the east is some new development areas in the town of Hanover. So in addition to being a support property for our Kinsmen Ballpark facility, it does service some neighborhoods as well. So currently this property, kind of the bottom left corner of that yellow box, is a climbing unit. The intent at this point is that climbing unit will stay. It's a fairly, it's a newer piece of equipment. And then the kind of to the right of that is our swing set unit. And then just to the left of the swing set unit, it again is another older piece of equipment that it was similar to our Optimist playground. If you can recall those older style units where you had the climbing apparatus on the one side to the platform to the metal slide, and you had stairs coming up both sides of that metal platform. So that's the existing unit that will come out. And then the other small piece that you see there was a former teeter-totter. The teeter-totter is no longer there, and it just is kind of the engineered wood fiber space that you can see from the visual. So again, we will be retrofitting most of this playground as well. So our purpose today really was to get your feedback as our advisory committee is reviewing those proposals. And if we can just, sorry, Tara, are you able to share that screen again quickly?
Yeah.
So I think if we go back to that page 2, so it's that middle section of that page 2. We really wanted to get your thoughts, or perhaps you visited some playgrounds. So if you can scroll up just a little bit more, Tara, please. These are the pieces or areas we're just looking for, again, input. Have you seen some good pieces of equipment when you visited spaces, or that maybe just would note to us, or suggestions you have as we are considering this proposals from an accessibility standpoint? I should have mentioned, and I failed to do so at the very beginning, only because it's been common, it's just common practice, but all of our proposals will meet the CSA standard for playgrounds. That's the national standard, and then that includes Annex H, which is the minimum requirement from accessibility standpoint. So that accessibility Annex H talks about accessible routes, entry and exit points, ground surfaces, accessibility components, and at-grade components. So again, the proposals that we will receive will at a minimum have those pieces as part of it. So again, we are just looking for your thoughts or suggestions that you may have that would be shared with our advisory committee as they are considering the proposals during the selection process. So I'll be quiet and see if there's any questions or clarifications. And if there isn't, then we would just move to that point of suggestions.
Okay, thank you, Sherry and Melissa. Dwight, you have a question?
Just a comment. It's great to see the Hanover taking initiative to upgrade your playgrounds after all this time. And it'd be nice if this committee once you get your new equipment and so on in place, could you take some pictures and maybe just forward on to us just for reference for later? It'd be just ideal. We in George and Bless have upgraded our equipment at our family park, just for reference for you, and Salvo Conservation at Kelso Park upgraded brand new playground there too. And just a reference for you if you want to see some more modern type equipment, just as a reference point for you, and congratulations to Hanover.
Thank you. And yes, certainly we can share photos. We, just as an FYI, our committee, we visited a number of spaces, and thank you for those suggestions. I haven't seen those retrofitted spaces, but we, our committee members last summer did visit playgrounds in Kincardine, Saugeen Shores, Center Wellington, Elmira. There's some really great examples. Now, the difference between some of the playgrounds that we went to, and I'll be really clear, like these are neighborhood playgrounds versus a fully accessible. There's some really great fully accessible playground examples in the Center Wellington and Elmira area, and we certainly have kind of a long-term vision for something like that down the road. So yes, but thank you for those suggestions of those other spaces.
Does anyone else from the committee? Christina?
The only thing that I have to add to something like that is, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about playground equipment and like things that can make it better. But I think one of the biggest things we don't talk about is the pathway to get there. What is used underneath the playground equipment. We always found like everybody wants to use like the bigger rocks and stuff, but Natalie's wheelchair just didn't have. So I think that as much as we want to make a playground accessible, we want to make sure getting there and not getting stuck as well makes a huge difference. And even with people with visual disabilities, making sure the ground is, you know, continuously even. Like all those kind of things, anything that I know we went to like the OEC one year, like what's that? They go for grade 6 or whatever. And as soon as we got there, like the wheelchair just kept getting stuck. So I think as long as you can make the ground as accessible as the playground equipment for everybody, it really does add, you know, the being of the inclusion of actually getting there as well.
Yeah, and Christina, thanks for that. That's certainly, you know, as Annex H, that's one of the minimum requirements, right? Is that there's that accessible route and that entry and exit point. So those have been built into our RFP. And so our surface material that we've asked for at a minimum is engineered wood fiber, which is an accessible surface material. That's a product that can be used. So that's just as an FYI, but thank you for making those notes, and I've noted that specifically.
Brooke?
I came from Guelph. I just moved here in August, and they've done a lot of upgrading of their neighborhood parks as well as like their major park at Riverside. So maybe talking to them or going to check out some of their parks. I know Exhibition was just redone. Riverside was just redone. That was a big one now. And I know some of the different parks, neighborhood ones, but I can't remember specific which ones. I think Eastview has one that was recently redone. But I would definitely talk to them because I just remember all the discussion on the different things that would work, like equipment-wise. So they might have some really good ideas.
Hi, Brooke. It's Melissa from Hanover here.
Yeah.
My son, he was a little bit cutting away to me, and I couldn't hear the locations that you said. I'm just taking notes. Would you mind repeating those?
Oh, sorry. So there was it's all in Guelph. So there's the Riverside Park, which is like their major park. So that's probably a little bit more than you want, but it's definitely a good place to look. I think Exhibition Park was recently done. And I think there's a newer park also on Eastview somewhere. I'm not specifically sure. I think it's near Eastview and Watson or somewhere around there. But there's other parks as well that were done. this year, like this past year, and so they're definitely, Guelph might be a really good resource.
Thank you. Can I ask a question of the committee? When you've been out and about to parks, is there anything you've noticed that was particularly well enjoyed from, you know, say those elements that maybe are ground level play or sensory play or, you know, a more quiet space?
I can speak to what I have experienced, Melissa and Sherry, just from some of the parks that have been, and they're more in the county of Simcoe, because of my experience of sitting on an accessibility advisory committee from the past, that, you know, there's a huge amount of companies out there now, Sherry, you probably know that, that are now doing, you know, playground equipment, accessible playground equipment. One of the things that, and I don't know if you're considering it at all or not, is adaptive swings. You know, I mean, there's different styles, obviously, but there are now swings out there for wheelchair accessibility, right? So I don't know if you've looked at that or the cost around that. But I do know, like now with the design for public spaces, there's certainly requirements under that document for, you know, parks and public spaces. And as you said, you know, you've taken those into consideration with the standards. I just had a question around, did you have any like sensory playground equipment? I don't know, like I haven't had a lot of experience with that. I know that there is equipment out there specifically to children of autism. So, you know, there may be equipment. I know that there is equipment that is geared to autism in the sensory part of it. But I do, like, I admire the fact that, you know, you've gone around and you've checked other parks that have gone through, you know, the renovation or, you know, the deletion of old equipment and, you know, replaced it with new accessible equipment. And I think that's great that you've done that. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, there's just so many companies out there now. Do you have a company that is going to be provide, because you said you've just put out an RFP then?
Yeah, so the RFP is out and it
Okay.
closes this Thursday. So that will be part of the selection process, is determining which company
Okay.
we wish to deal with. So,
Yeah.
and to answer your question around swings in the RFP, we've asked for one accessible swing within each swing set unit, but you're correct, there's various kinds. There's a saucer swing, there's what I call a bucket swing. So again, if you visited a park, and Christina, you might be a good one to ask this question, like, is there a preference? Is the saucer swing, because saucer swing is accessible not to just to individuals who maybe have mobility issues, but it's also then accessible to children who maybe need some support of a parent or an older sibling or a grandparent for that matter, who can also sit on the swing with them. That's the beauty of a saucer swing versus a bucket swing, as I call it. It kind of looks like your typical car seat, right? It's then just a swing as that. And we have a couple of those swings in one of our playgrounds. So yeah, we definitely are including accessible swings as part of our design. And then it's really some of those other pieces, like some of the things we saw when we, like, you know, the ground level play, there's many sensory boards that are part of that play and that experiential play piece. We've seen at some of the playgrounds where there's I call it a dot for lack of a better word, but there's a dot almost at every kind of access point or closure point. And my understanding, it's for those with visual impairments, as well as just kind of that warning sign that you're about to transition to another part of the play space. And just again, those music because there's music pieces of equipment which are typical ground level that you could potentially wheel to, or if a child's not comfortable climbing, they at least have that as that play experience from the ground level. And there's different music pieces that are part of the equipment. So there's so many opportunities, and certainly these playground companies are well in tune with what they have as options. We're just kind of looking for suggestions of things maybe you've seen that have worked well or maybe don't work well, and that would be good to avoid type thing. So
Okay. Does anyone else from the committee have anything to add?
I think the saucer was the most, is it like, because I used to call it the big red swing, so I never saw the pictures, but I think the saucer is what Guelph tended to get. Like that was one of the things that they found worked really, really well for people in their playgrounds.
right. Yeah, they kind of look like a trampoline, for lack of a better descriptive way. It's not a
Yeah.
trampoline, but that's what it looks
I've never
like.
seen one. I should take my my niece comes to visit. She's like 3. I'll take her and we'll go check out some of these parks and see what things actually look like.
Yeah. Christina, did you have something you want to add?
I can figure out how to turn the volume back on. I think the biggest thing that ever became an obstacle for Natalie was that we did go eventually buy our own swing for our own house, but it doesn't encourage the freedom of her going to the park with somebody else. So Natalie could never go to the park with somebody else because they were never able to transfer her into that swing. I know there's another swing out there. It's a little more risky, but it's one where they can drive their wheelchair right onto it. Now it's like they probably present far more of a liability and other issues. I don't know, because you got to make sure the brakes are on, the wheels, blah, blah, blah. But I think they're getting better. I think that, you can close up the ends. I think that there's other options. But Natalie just got to the point where she was too heavy to transfer as she aged. And, I see a lot of these kids with cerebral palsy and, as they're aging, they're not getting to enjoy that stuff because they have to be the right person that can lift and transfer them. It's also why everybody was like, oh, don't you have a ceiling track lift at home? And I was like, why would I have a ceiling track lift at home? If I can't transfer this kid into bed, how am I ever going to transfer her anywhere outside of my house? So it's different for me, but it's different for, when like they were 12 years old and they wanted to go there 10 years old, you go to the park with your friends. You can't go to the park with your friends because you just sit there and stare at your friends. So if there's something that, I don't know, I guess you're going to have to look into the different types and the liabilities. I haven't had to look into those things, in recent years because she's 22, but I know there's other options. And like when Natalie was younger, the saucer was a great idea, because she was still little enough. And the saucer is like anybody can use it, right? All kids of any ability can use it. Whereas the others, like they did have the one that looks like a big car seat, but really, quite frankly, like what can we do if these children can't come out of their wheelchairs?
Good points.
Andy, did you have anything to add?
Yes. Just to add to Christina's point, I've actually used one of those swings quite often with my younger family members. So they're fun for all ages, not just 22. I'd be well into my 50s and when I was on them. And you do, like, you can be independent, you can wheel on. They do have a little tailgate on each end that can be flipped up so you don't roll off. Anyway, it was pretty user friendly, and I obviously didn't get out of my wheelchair.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? Well, hopefully we've given you some information, Sherry and Melissa. That would be helpful. And I think, Dwight, as you mentioned, it would be great if once your equipment is in place, that you would be able to come back and share pictures or, just share the work that's been done with the committee. It would be lovely to see that.
Certainly I can do that. And I can give you, just for future reference, I'll give you the Kate's Cause. If you Google Kate's Cause, it's in Elmira. It's this mom, and she was the driver behind this playground. This playground, honestly, it was the first time I saw it last summer. It was incredible. And anyways, I tell you, that's certainly a strong vision for what a fully accessible playground should look like. And it's quite impressive. And they were adding on, but anyways, they have some okay photos on their website. You really need to go experience it. So if you're ever in the KW area, Kate's Cause in Elmira is one that I would highly recommend. So thank you so much for that feedback. I am going to exit the meeting and let you carry on with the rest of your business. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Sherry and Melissa. Thank you for presenting. We appreciate it. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the reports, and it's the status report for the multi-year accessibility plan. But I first want to, we have a resolution, and I'd like a mover for the resolution, Dwight. And can I get a seconder before Kathy presents? Thanks, Andy. And I will hand it over to Kathy.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's so nice to be here with everybody. And I'm pretty excited about this report because as I was working through this annual update, I realized that there are so many things that had an additional advantage of being a benefit to accessibility that came out of COVID. So, and the things that we had to do to change our business model and stuff like that through COVID. So the report is pretty lengthy. There's some pretty cool things though that happened. So I just want to run through briefly some of the things. So most of these things actually weren't even in the plan. They just were things that benefited accessibility that are now part of our business model. So the training moved to online training. So we use in-house training videos and shareable access forward free training modules. We did implement the job specific training chart. So that is something that we're going to move into completing during the next 5-year plan. The website this year is going through a whole revamp, so I'm not going to talk too much about that or at all really. Information technology. It was interesting because just prior to COVID, IT put out team software, and I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have that software. I wondered what happened, why we got it when we got it. I thought we don't really need this. And then COVID hit and we absolutely needed it. So that was awesome. And then people were working remotely. So remote work policies were created and good support staff if they had a need for ergonomic assessments in their home stations and stuff like that. The transportation standard came to light that we had thought that there wasn't really very much for transportation that fell under the county-wide accessibility requirements. And then we realized that the Grey County owned bridges, when we redo those, the sidewalks that are attached to them, so those will be coming forward to committee for review and comment going forward. Rural transportation with the Gtr service. So last report was basically the progress that we had made and the change to the multi-year plan to incorporate conventional transit that was new to being offered in Grey as a pilot project. This is gaining some really solid ground, and there were some areas, and there still are some areas that were not entirely accessible because it was cost prohibitive at the time, but things are moving forward and we're really working toward having everything be accessible. One of the things that COVID did was we implemented booked multi-use book tickets. So clients of service providers for the agencies like United Way and stuff like that were able to buy one ticket that had multi-use availability for their clients, and the clients are enjoying having that. The GTR phones are staffed by human beings, so people don't have to suffer through an auto attendant, which I know I really appreciate. The Google Maps is supporting the map piece of GTR for the stop locations and the timing for things like that. In order for them to be able to add that, they required walk-on ridership, which this service didn't have prior to that, but it does now. And ridership for accessibility requirements, the people just call in and they get a trip booked. It's on an accessible vehicle that's provided through a third party. But we are working on getting an accessible vehicle. So I'm hoping that that's going to come through the next round of plan accessibility improvements for our multi-year plan. Design of public spaces, Grey Roots has made some really great strides. They had brought to the committee about their Grey County gallery refresh. That is now up and running and it is good. And they've received some good feedback about that. The age-friendly strategy has elements that dovetail really well with accessibility that Stephanie brought to the committee last time. So we're going to work together to move that forward. And as well, the recreational trails master plan. So the trails upgrades. So trail improvements have already happened to 8 forest properties. These are not fully accessible trails, but they are more accessible now than they were before. So there's support for wayfinding, making sure that the brush and debris have been removed from the trails and parking areas, providing a consistent tread width, which I think is really helpful, and marking locations for future installation of benches and trail signage. Long-term care. Oh, long-term care blew me away with what they did. So long-term care had so much change every day that they had to keep pivoting and repivoting, and somehow they managed to still provide all of their programming. They just did it in a different way. So they had residents and visitors used amplifiers for their window visit stations so they could improve hearing. An additional push door button was added at Lee Manor. At Lee Manor, they did some sidewalk leveling and extended the walking paths. They created indoor visiting stations at all 3 homes that allowed for wheelchairs and physical distancing. They set up outdoor visiting stations in accessible areas. The Rotary Club built accessible sunshades for all 3 homes. The services such as hairdressing and physio were set up so that they could go to in-room service provision when it was needed. And they rearranged the dining room so that the residents could still have a dining experience outside their room, but be safe. Okay, so programming is very cool. So they used to have a bus that took the residents to see the Festival of Northern Lights, but they couldn't do that. So they made a mini Festival of Northern Lights, and so that the residents could see it like within their home. That was pretty cool. They had virtual museum tours done through Zoom. Entertainment came, and instead of residents going to the entertainment came to each pod in the home and provided that. Physician rounds were done virtually using OTN, which is a secure platform. Yeah, okay, and in the administration building, they enhanced the audio visual equipment for this had already been started to record the meetings and stuff like that, but they added in the ability to have hybrid meetings. So some people could be in person, some people could be on Zoom. Let's see what else happened. Bunch of stuff at Grey Roots, but I mentioned part of that already. Housing. So housing had some really good improvements because they had to move to online applications. And many clients really found that it was easier to navigate making telephone appointments. Staff reached out to clients in different ways. So that really made the client the focus rather than the service the focus. And tenant services even went on site with mobile debit machines so that tenants could pay their rent from where they were. Housing added a budget line to add additional functional services to some of the units that weren't a fully barrier-free unit, but an accessible unit. So they may have an electronic door opener or a grab bar. The other cool thing is some of the buildings have a scooter room. So people used to have their scooter in the hall, and it was kind of in the way, and it wasn't very safe. So now they're in the room, plugged into charge, completely secure, and it just seems to be a really good plan for everybody. Social services also moved to computer, email, text, or Zoom. They repurposed the social services van because it wasn't moving people around. So it started moving supplies around, COVID-related supplies to the various locations that needed them. Yeah, and then emergency management was looked at from a COVID lens because some of those plans had to change. And so all of that from an accessibility standpoint. Provincial offenses started having hearings where nobody appears in person and everything is done in writing. This is groundbreaking. They have more opportunity to make payments online. Economic development and tourism. The Siddenham campus is being updated to meet all the accessibility requirements. You'll recall because we did have a meeting there and a tour of that area. So that's all coming to fruition now. Virtual training. There's an ambassador program where students and other municipal partners help residents and visitors better understand outdoor areas. We're still working on the digital mapping for county accessible municipal county facilities. Another cool thing is Launchpad, which is kind of a partner organization. Well, I wouldn't say partner organization, a related organization has built an accessible picnic table for the Siddenham campus. Yeah, so I guess that is it in more than a nutshell, but I wanted to share all that with you because I was pretty excited at how above and beyond staff went to make things better for the residents where we live.
That's amazing, Kathy. And you know what? I think what you pointed out at the beginning of the report was, you know, we took so many things for granted before COVID, and then COVID hit and we were all thrusted into this. How are we going to adapt to, just simple things like having a meeting, right? But the great thing about it is that it tapped into, it tapped into accessibility. And it made a lot of changes that may not have come as quickly as they did because of COVID. And as unfortunate that, just COVID and the whole thing, people getting sick and people passing away as a result of it. I guess there's that silver lining in everything in life, right? And, just when you point it out in your report the way you do, it kind of makes you have a step back and think about, as crappy as it's been with COVID, it really did present some opportunities for change, and hopefully those changes will last forever, right? Like those things that have been changed and adapted will continue with us. We here in my place of employment, we talked about the whole not masking, and we as an organization are continuing to mask up until at least April 1st. But we just went, yeah, but there's so many things that we've had to change as a result of COVID that we're now going to continue to do from a health and safety point of view, right? And hopefully lessen people getting the flu and people getting colds and spreading them, among ourselves in the office and our thrift shop and elsewhere in the building. But you take opportunity from these things that happen, and that's history, right? That's what happens with history. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for presenting your report, Kathy. It's excellent, and it just goes to show how much has been done. And yeah, I enjoyed reading it. Yeah, gave me goosebumps.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thanks for all the hard work of putting it together as well. So just for procedure, do I need to, I guess we've got the mover and seconder, and do we need to move it and approve it and then carry it? Okay.
Yes, please.
So is everyone in favor of the report?
Yes.
Dwight, Andy, Brooke?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and Christina? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Thank you. There you go. Okay, in the agenda, there are no reference documents in this meeting. And then under other businesses, Markdale Hospital.
Okay, that's going to be me again. That was just an update
Okay.
to let everybody know that the Ministry of Health did respond to my request, because we wondered if it needed to come to this committee for review and comment. And they have said, no, it's the Ministry of Health's responsibility to ensure AODA compliance.
Great. Thanks, Kathy, for reporting on that. I guess if there's no other business, which it doesn't look like there is, next meeting obviously is to be determined. And I just had a question about that, Kathy. So with the municipal elections this year, does this committee continue to meet during, how does that affect the county, or does it affect the county?
So for this committee, there's no reason why this committee can't meet up until the end of the year as scheduled. Yeah, or as it needs to be scheduled.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, because I wasn't sure how municipal elections, how that would affect committees of the county, but it would make sense that it would continue on to the end of the year. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Do we have any other business? I assume that we don't, because it's not on the agenda. Okay, I guess we're safe to adjourn the meeting. It's 2:28. So thank you, everybody. And I don't
probably need a motion to adjourn. Yeah.
Yes, I know. And I do this, you know what? I needed somebody to tape this to my forehead. I think I do this at every single meeting. I never call for the motion to adjourn. Dwight moves the motion to adjourn, and the seconder, I think, was Andy. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.